Hello everyone, welcome back to Optimize FPL. Like I said before, the Pizza Premier League, please feel free to join. There's a link down below. Winner of the league gets a pizza, winner of the cup gets pizza. Let's get into the video. So welcome back everybody. I've updated the optimized model. I've added some more predictions. So as we can see, like before we had the Form and Fantasy Football Hub, but now we also have Fantasy Football Fix and we have Fantasy Football Scout, their predicted points. I've added them in, and as you can see, I'll use Salah as the example here. Salah has 35 points on Form. On the Fantasy Football Hub, he has 46.4. On Scout, he has 40, and Fantasy Football Fix, he also has about 40. So his average prediction is 40 points. So when I go to use the solver, it takes all this information, looks at all their prices, looks at the teams, looks at their position, gets the perfect team possible for the max amount of predicted points, and that's using all four models that we have. I'm going to be making a video about game week 6 or 7, maybe 8, somewhere around that area, to see which model is the most accurate based on the actual points, the difference between the actual points and the points that they predicted. Let's get into the video and see what the most optimized team is looking like right now. So the model seems like a 5 at the back system. It also doesn't really rate the premiums very highly, which makes a lot of sense because the premiums are not worth very much without the potential captaincy option that you get with them. So when the model doesn't understand what captaincy means, it's not going to take it into consideration when it's deciding what the most optimized team is. So this team, the first one showing, is a one premium team. It's got Salah only as the only premium. This was the second highest predicted points. The first highest, the one right after this, it's also a 5 at the back, and it had Holland and Salah in it. So this first team, let's look at the defense. So this is the back 5 the model likes the most. It's got Ederson in net, which is actually surprising. Usually it likes Alisson, but I guess with this model, it sees Ederson as a better value pick because Robertson is such high value as well. So it's got Trent, Robertson, Cancelo, James, Chilwell, and Ederson. Huge at the back system. Basically, I think that's the top 6 defenders in price, including the goalkeeper. So really likes a lot of money in the back line this year, which makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people like that, and I'm not surprised that the model's like that because they take into account the clean sheet potential. So, I mean, these were the top 3 defenses last year, so I'm sure they're taking that into account a lot in their models. So very interesting to see that it's got all these big names in the back. As we continue along, it's got some interesting players again. So Salah, obviously, no question about that. It makes a lot of sense. His points predicted are ridiculous compared to the others. Bowen is an interesting one at 8.5 million. I don't think he's being talked about very much. I think it's probably because of his opening fixture against Man City. West Ham have a really hard fixture there. But the fixtures afterwards aren't too bad for West Ham, so maybe Bowen could potentially be somebody on your radar. At 8.5 million, though, he is hard to fit into the team. Mahrez, I think, is an interesting one as well. He didn't play very well in the Community Shield. He got pulled off after 60 minutes, so a bit of concern for his game time. But at right wing, there's not a lot of competition for him. He's really got maybe Bernardo Silva, maybe Foden if they put him on the right wing, but I really doubt that. And then there's also Palmer, but he's also not very much of competition because he's like a newbie. So Mars looks pretty nailed on in that right wing spot, so he could potentially be very good value. Martinelli, the system really likes Martinelli. They really like his points. I think that he's got a really high chance of starting to start the Premier League season. And Arsenal's fixtures in the first 6 game weeks look absolutely fantastic. So I'm not surprised that Martinelli is so high up and almost always picked for this draft. And yeah, the final player on this team is just Jesus up top. Not unsurprising. A lot of money to be spread around when there's not a lot of premiums. As we can see on the bench is bare bones. That I made it as cheap as humanly possible for this to figure out the best team possible. So as we can see, 4.5 million mid, 4.5 million forwards, and a 4.0 goalkeeper is the cheapest I can possibly make this bench. It's a very interesting squad, and I think it could definitely get some huge returns. I'm not sure how much I love Chilwell in this team, just because he hasn't really played too much. I think an easy fix potentially could be like maybe Cancelo down to Diaz, and then, take Chilwell. I think the easy fix just be take Chilwell out, maybe put in Perisic or maybe someone in the Arsenal defense like Gabriel, and maybe try to upgrade maybe Martinelli to Saka if you can, or potentially upgrade Bowen to maybe like someone like Sterling could be a very good choice for a team that only has 1 premium. But yeah, I think this team is very good. Its expected points is very high, 324 points over the course of the first 6 game weeks is very good. Yeah, let's look on to the other team now. So in this team, I made sure that the model had at least 1 premium forward and 1 premium midfielder. The 2 top performing midfielders for value when it came to the premiums were Salah and Holland. Holland just about edged Kane out by about point or like by like 1 point over the course of 6 game weeks. So honestly, the difference between the two of them is very negligible. But I think it's definitely something to take into account that Holland, for the first 6 game weeks, does have slightly better fixtures, and I'm unsurprised that he got a better score. But let's look at the rest of the team now. So not much has changed in the back line. The only real difference is that they've taken out Robertson. I guess Robertson just isn't worth the money. And then there's also Allison. I spelled his name wrong. It should be two L's. Allison and net. I guess Allison gives slightly better value for money compared to Robertson. So I guess if you have the money, you should go for Robertson. But if you don't have the money, Allison is apparently the next best choice for Liverpool, even over Diaz, which I think is really surprising. I don't really understand why the models love Allison so much, but it is what it is. Perisic, I think, is a really good option. I think he's super interesting. I do worry about his minutes further along in the season, but he did just get 70 minutes against Roma, so I think he should be good to start the beginning of the season, so I wouldn't worry too much about him. Moving along into the midfield, again, basically the same players. I guess the solver decided that Bowen was the least valuable player out of the midfield four that were there before, so it's just Salah, Martinelli, and Mahrez. Nothing to be said about them this time. Like I said, Holland up top, the best premium forward in the game right now, according to the predicted points. I personally like Kane more, but that's what the game says, so that's what it says. And beside him is Welbeck. I would 100% not recommend Welbeck at all. I think what I would probably do instead is potentially downgrade Chilwell to someone like maybe like Trippier or another 4.5 million like Dallo, or I don't know, White potentially, and then upgrade Welbeck to Martin or to Jesus. Welbeck is not a great option. I'm not really sure why the solver lugs him so much, or why all the predicted point websites seem to like Welbeck so much, because I don't think he's a very good option. Maybe it's because Maupay is going to be leaving potentially, and then it really only leaves Welbeck and Undav to play up top, and I'm pretty sure they play a two up front system, so they would both be starting. So I guess Welbeck starting in this Brighton team is a very, very good potential option at 6.5 million according to the stats. If we look at the bench, again, 4.0 million goalkeeper, two 4.5 million mids, and a 4.5 million forward. Gives his team an expected points of 325.4. It's actually the highest expected points team that I could find using the solver, so I think it's a pretty interesting team to look at, but there's definitely a lot of players here that I wouldn't recommend. The main ones being Allison, Chilwell, and Welbeck. I'm definitely looking for better options. And finally, because it's the formation I'm going to be playing probably to start the season off, I'm looking at a 4-4-2. I basically made sure that the model had no choice but to make a 4-4-2 model, or a 4-4-2 draft. So, yeah, let's look at what they got for us. So in defense, again, Allison, Trent, Cancelo, James, Chilwell. Allison spelled wrong again. But I think it's very interesting that James and Chilwell are always being picked for this team. I guess that the predicted points really like their projected scores for the first 6 game weeks, so it's kind of unsurprising that they keep getting picked. Again, like I've said before, I'm not really a big fan of Chilwell, but James makes a lot of sense. I think if you can downgrade Allison to like a 4.5 and you get Chilwell up to Robertson, I think it's a much better pick, but that's just my personal opinion. If we look into the midfield now, into the midfield four. So looking into the midfield four, we finally have somebody new, Neto from Wolves. I think Neto's fixtures look absolutely fantastic. I think he's scoring at about like 20 predicted points, roughly, give or take, for the first 6 game weeks, which is pretty decent, honestly. That's like that's kind of expecting, like, I think that's what, like maybe like 3 or 4 returns from a 5.5 million option. That's basically what you should be expecting. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, Salah, Martinelli, Mahrez. Again, that's like a standard for these drafts. And up top, we have Haaland again, but this time we have Tony instead, which I think is a bit interesting. I guess the model sees that there's a little bit of extra money in the bank, so it decides that it should be moved for Tony. Basically, the 0.5 comes from the bench. Because we have the option of the 4.0 defender, Tony or Welbeck is able to be moved up to Tony because we have a little bit extra cash. This team only projects 321.4 points, but again, these are very negligible. Like, they're only like 3 or 4 points off. That's really not going to win or lose your fantasy leagues. So any of these 3 teams could be really good options to start the season off. But again, for this team in particular, the only player I really don't like is Chilwell. I think you can get somebody much better for him. Whether you downgrade Allison to a 5.5 or a 4.5, or you downgrade Morris to someone like Grealish, and you upgrade Chilwell to Robbo. I think that's the best way to do it. But yeah, that's what the teams look like. Thanks so much for watching. Please feel free to leave your teams down in the comments, and please feel free to subscribe, let me know anything about the teams that you don't like, and I'm going to try to respond to as many comments as possible. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.